Hello everyone, Joe here from Draft FPL and welcome to today's video, the Gameweek 15 Roundup. First of all, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that subscribed to the channel. We've hit 1,000 subscribers, which is just absolutely mental. I never thought that would happen, to be honest, and here we are. So thank you to everyone that subscribed so far. A few things happening this week. We've got the Gameweek 15 Roundup today. We're recording a podcast which will be available on the standard podcast platforms, and we're recording that tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Then there'll be waivers on Wednesday, and then I'm going to do a Friday night pre-Gameweek 16 deadline live stream on Friday night, probably about 8:30, 9 PM UK time. So look out for all that stuff. One other thing, we're running a little promotion on the Patreon. Anyone that subscribes between now and the end of the World Cup will receive their first month refunded. So you can trial the Patreon, get the first month refunded back to you, and then go from there. See if you like it, and if you don't, you can just cancel, and that's that. So won't cost you anything. Let's get stuck now into the Gameweek 15 Roundup. So no eye test from me this week. That's basically because I was working all weekend. So I watched bits of all the matches, but I didn't watch a match in full, unfortunately. So I've got the Gameweek 15 XGI leaders up here. So this is the players that had the highest non-penalty expected goal involvement. And a few surprises in here. Number one, El Yunusi. Non-penalty XG of 0.84, which is pretty high. I know he did miss a massive chance, which is probably the bulk of that. I'm not sure if he had any other shots outside of that, but he did miss a really big chance, which was probably 0.6, 0.7 of that. So that can happen. You know, it's not too much of a surprise considering the chance he missed. Next up, we've got Harvey Barnes, someone I'm kind of interested at the moment, actually, to be honest. You know, he's been performing pretty consistently and has a lot of goal threat, is a decent finisher. The problem with him has always been kind of fitness and his place in the side, but his place looks pretty locked down at the moment, and he seems to be fit and firing. Obviously, no World Cup to worry about. So yeah, someone I think is a decent buy at the moment, a very decent buy at the moment. KDB up next. Almost all from expected assist numbers. So even though he got a jammy penalty assist at the end, I think it probably was a pretty fair reflection. Next up, Maddison, very consistent performer. Someone I traded out in about Game Week 2, which I'm kind of regretting. You know, he didn't have the stats to back it up at the time, but the stats are coming now and the returns are still flowing. So looks like a very strong pick. Next up, Gibbs White, obviously had a great game for Forest, involved in both goals. Gabriel next, and you know, I put him significantly higher than Saliba in my rankings when I did them in Game Week 8, and people were quite surprised that he was higher, but I just, you know, his goal threat from aerial set pieces is massive, and you know, he got another goal at the weekend, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him pick up even more this season. I think he's probably the best centre-back in the league in terms of attacking returns potential. So definitely a great pick. Next up, Perisic, hit the woodwork a couple of times, so not too much surprise. Then we've got Salah, 2 goals and only 8th on this list. Shows that they're both quite clinical finishes. Didn't have too many chances outside the 2 goals, and yeah, both excellently taken, and what we expect to see from Salah. I'll show something slightly different on the next slide, but I think Salah is definitely on his way back to his best, in my opinion. Then we've got Iwobi next. You know, not just a tackling central midfielder, he's got goal threat as well. Definitely someone to keep your eye on, especially if Everton have a good run of fixtures. And then Solly March in 10th, who just seems to be on this list all the time. So many chances, but he just has no end product. Maybe if he gets a bit of confidence in front of goal, we might start seeing a few more returns from him. But, you know, someone to keep an eye on for now, I think. So seeing as there's no eye test this week, I thought I'd have a look at the non-penalty expected goals only from the last 6 game weeks and just kind of do a bit of an acid test of, you know, who's been getting the points in and who has, you know, been there or thereabouts in the last 6 weeks. You know, who might be underperforming, who might be overperforming. So this is just the top 15 or so. There was a bit of a drop-off after Saka, so I thought that was a good place to stop it. Salah, far and away ahead. Not too surprised there. He has had a lot of chances over the last few game weeks, but only 3.16 from 6 game weeks isn't that high from him. I know it's the best in the league at the moment over the last 6, but it just goes to show that a lot of teams aren't creating masses of chances for just 1 or 2 players. They are being spread around a bit at the moment, and we have seen a bit of a drop off overall in terms of expected goals over the last few weeks. I know this week was a very high scoring week in terms of goals, but actually there was a lot of teams that massively overperformed this week. So yeah, Salah top, Kane second. Not surprised there. I think Kane's been pretty consistently performing well over this season, and I expect him to just tick along for the rest of the year. Just a very good, very solid pick. Callum Wilson, Nunez, the next 2. Again, not completely unsurprising. Nunez obviously really underperforming. When you look at the, he's 4th on this list, but only 21 points. Quite a few players have more than him on this list, which goes to show, he has been not really putting the chances away, and he's been a bit profligate. So could be someone that I think might be a decent shout to buy low. Although on the flip side to that, Diaz and Jota will both be back fit after the World Cup, it seems. So yeah, something to think about there. Then we've got the man in form, Almiron, 50 points over the last 6 game weeks, and I think 6 goals at least in those 6 games. 50 points is mad, and only 1.97 xg. He is on the hottest streak you'll ever see at the moment, and I'm not saying it won't continue. I don't think it will continue to this level, but I think it will probably drop down to around the kind of Trossard, Harvey Barnes sort of level. Not a bad pick by any means, but not someone that is going to be getting 50 points every 6 weeks. But if you've got him now, it's ideal. Absolute great hold. Next few, Trossard, Rodrigo, kind of expect them to be there or thereabouts. Jesus, really underperformed, as has Ollie Watkins. I think, both of them could be have had the potential to get quite a few more returns over this last 6. But, it's encouraging that they're on this list. If you own them, hopefully an upturn in form coming up. Then we've got Harvey Barnes, as I said earlier, really good pick in my opinion. Someone I think that's going to just keep ticking over. Then we've got Mitrovic, not so good as the first 6 game weeks for sure. But obviously he does have the penalties to supplement that. Then it's Haaland. I know he missed 1.5 games from these 6, but I would have expected him to be at least up near sort of Nunez, Callum Wilson. That's quite a significant drop off from what his expected goal involvement was the previous sort of 10 game weeks, the first 10 weeks of the season. So interesting there. I don't think you're in any position to trade him. I still think he's the best pick in the league, but definitely interesting to note that there's been a bit of a drop-off. Then Rashford, pretty standard. I would have expected him to be about there. Then we've got Bamford, only 8 points in this period, but still in the top 15 of expected goals over the last 6. His form, his confidence is at an all-time low, I think. Well, maybe not an all-time low. He's had some bad periods in the past, but it's at a low for his period at Leeds for sure. So interesting to note that he's getting the chances. I think Leeds attack, I'm going to talk a little bit more in a minute, but I do think they are creating a lot of chances at the moment, which is good to see. Then it's Ivan Toney, and then we've got Bukayo Saka down at the bottom there. So all these players, I think, are showing that they're good picks going forward. To be on this list, these are the best 15 in the league at the moment, or 17 or whatever I've done at the moment. So definitely think they are good picks still. But it just goes to show some people that you might not have expected to be on here, and some people that you might have expected to see on here not on the list. Just some other things to note then. As I said in the previous slide, I think Leeds' attack is pretty legit. I think the defence is terrible, but they are creating a lot of chances, and there are players in that side that I think are going to do well over the next period. The tough thing is making, there'll always be players that miss out. It was Aronson this week, Harrison as well. But I think trying to make sure you pick one that's going to start, is is not always easy, and B, the one that is in the chances of falling to. At the moment, it looks like it's Somerville and maybe Rodrigo. But it is hard to tell, especially with the Rodrigo Bamford kind of problem, because we never really know who's going to start there. I think Aronson's the most nailed on because he does the most for the side outside of the goal scoring opportunity. So I think he's a good one to pick. But then, he's not been as involved in the goals lately. Somerville looks like he's on good form and doesn't look like he's in any danger of getting dropped at the moment. So he's also a good pick, I think, as well. Next up, Brentford defence. I kind of talked about this a few weeks ago, but I really do fancy targeting Brentford defence. It's definitely a team I'm going to look to pick up attackers from that are playing against them. I think conceding 2 to Forest and probably deserving at least, they definitely didn't deserve to win. Maybe a draw's a fair result, but they could have easily lost the game as well. Forest, who have been a pretty blunt attack this season, created quite a lot of chances. They racked up about a 1.7 XG, which is probably, I haven't checked, but I would imagine it's close to their highest of the season so far. So it's not looking good for Brentford defence, really. And especially as Ivan Toney was suspended, I thought they might try and batten down the hatches a little bit more and just try and play on the break. But that didn't really work either, considering the amount of chances they conceded. So definitely someone I'm going to look to exploit. And obviously they're going to the Etihad in game week 16. So if you haven't got any City attackers, that might be a bit of a scary one, as I'm quite light on City attack over my team. So that could be a problem for me. Next up is Newcastle. I just want to talk about them, really. The Saints game was a bit of a weird game, to be honest. Newcastle had 4 shots on target and they scored 4 goals. They had an XG of about 1.2, again 4 goals. And they didn't create that much. They just did enough to win the game. They won it comfortably. I mean, 4-1, it's a great scoreline. Saints scored in the 90th minute. Could have easily been 4-0, an absolute rout. But I do think, it's not worrying, but it's a little bit alarming for them to have only created that many chances against a team really struggling that Saints are. Obviously, they've sacked the manager now after that result. But, it's just something to keep your eye on, I think. They do have clinical players. Almiron's in the form of his life. Callum Wilson has always been a great finisher. Trippier can do stuff from long range as well. So they do have some clinical players, but I wouldn't expect them to score 4 goals from that. I wouldn't really expect them to score more than 2 goals from that low XG too often. So, interesting to see. I mean, Saints had an XG of about 1.7, 1.8, so they outperformed them by quite a margin. But then, that doesn't tell the whole story, of course. Saints pressing the game for quite some time after Newcastle had gone ahead. So, it's not the whole story, but it's definitely something to keep in the back of your mind, I think. And finally, Villa stifle United. United created next to nothing in this game. I think their total XG for the game was about 0.5. I think it might have been the lowest of any team this week, which is a little bit, worrying if you own a share of the United attack. Villa, I think under Emery, are going to be a difficult team to beat. I think they're going to be tight. I think the Villa defence will be someone we'll look to get back on. Someone like Luca Dean, Matty Cash. These players I think will do quite well under Emery. Emery, I think he got a bit of a bad rap at Arsenal. I think the club as a whole was in a bit of a mess at the time. And I think he is a good manager, and I think he's going to do quite well. I think it's a really good appointment by Villa. I don't see them in any danger, really, of getting relegated. I think the squad's too good, the manager's too good, and I fancy them to kind of get it together a bit. I think they'll be quite a low-scoring team. So, the attack there'll be certain players I think that will do well. Maybe Leon Bailey, Jacob Ramsey had a great game playing an attacking mid-role. And I expect them to play that kind of 4-2-3-1. That Emery he's stuck with for the most part. Finally then, my waiver picks for game week 15. I was on a 6 clean sheet streak with defenders, and I did say that would be ended this week, and it was spectacularly. I don't feel too bad because there were basically pretty much no clean sheets this week. I think Arsenal and Leicester were the only teams to keep a clean sheet this week. I never would have backed an Arsenal defender at the Bridge. And, Leicester away to Everton, I thought they'd probably concede there as well. So, it is what it is. Not much I could have done about that. Go on to the mids. Nelson, I recorded it quite early because I was away. Saka turned out being fit, so Nelson was kind of a non-factor. Benrahma with a goal, 7 points, very happy with that. Somerville, probably my pick of the season so far, available in 100% of leagues, so every single person, well, almost every single person, could have picked him up if they so chose, and he came in with a goal and assist, max bonus, 13 points, and I'm very, very happy with that one. And then Kiefer Moore, he played, he did alright, but I think a blank was kind of not too surprising really, but forwards are tough. It is what it is. The season success rate is doing okay. I'm not quite at that 1 in 3 rate that I'm trying to get to, but we'll carry on and see how it goes. Okay, that wraps up the Game Week 15 roundup. As I said at the start, we are refunding every single Patreon member that signs up between now and the end of the World Cup. So you might as well do it, try it, see how it goes. And then you can decide to cancel it if you think it's not for you. Like the video if you enjoyed. Thank you to everyone that subscribed so far, getting us to 1,000 subs. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and we will see you next time.